2020 has finally come to a close, and I'm sure most of us are happy to leave it behind. There was plenty of bad, but at the very least, I wanted to talk a little bit of the good. So today I will take some time to talk about a few games that I feel deserved a little more attention, or just a pat on the back for doing a good job. I'm not saying these are games of the year, but there are some good games that should get a little more time in the limelight for making one bad year a little better, at least for me. Here's a couple of honorable mentions before we get into the main meat of this video. Visage has been in early access for about 5 years now, but it officially released as of October. It's not a completely fresh title, but it did succeed in being a spiritual successor for PT. And while it follows my big pet peeve of running away from the monster, it does enough in between to keep it interesting, especially in Chapter 2. Its ability to transform its general player hub into a new style of gameplay each time you begin a new chapter is what really brings out the best in this game. And I think it's a title worthy of your time if you're into games like Outlast and Amnesia. I would be shocked if you haven't heard of Phasmophobia. It burst into the scene around Halloween time and still keeps players playing today with its fresh yet logical take on a ghost horror game, copying TV tropes while requiring the player to directly interact with the ghost with the use of a mic gives the game more of a personal touch, and that can suck you in, because you are directly interacting with the ghost instead of just a player character. The game does suffer from being too straightforward, as every map now just turns into a checklist, and the AI does need some work, but Phasmophobia is still a really fun time, and you should check it out. BugSnax found itself on the unfortunate side of some memes. It has been declared one of the best games on a console with very few next-gen titles, and people kinda ran with it. Its odd character designs and genuinely strange premise turned a lot of people off, and if it wasn't for them hiring Kiro Benito, the guys behind big songs like Flamingo and I'd Rather Sleep, the game probably wouldn't have had many buyers. Yet Young Horses, most popularly known for Octodad, made a pretty good game, one with just enough charm to keep myself and many players interested. BugSnax is first a game about catching food-based bugs with googly eyes. The way the player catches them slowly grows harder with complexity, and they are genuinely designed to be cute and collectible. Pick your favorite BugSnax and throw it into a barn so you can pet it and hear its fun voice lines many times over. You can and will be forced to feed some of these BugSnax to islanders, where you can then customize their body parts to your liking. This is what the game is at face value, a cute story game with light puzzle content focused on collecting cute characters. But this is only what the game really advertises. Instead, there's a focus on character development and how people deal with their own shortcomings. Every character in this game, and I mean everyone, has their own problem. Wambus is having marital issues with his wife Triffany because he doesn't know when to give up on a lost cause. Wiggles is having a difficult time writing another hit song and has turned to BugSnax as both a source of inspiration and as a coping mechanism. And Gramble has abandonment issues after his family left him behind, so he keeps and raises BugSnax, calling them his family instead of giving more attention to Wiggles, who he's in a relationship with. I'm not gonna lie to you and say this is all perfect. The game's attempts at humor is very hit or miss.
Wow, you got it! Okay, now, toss it into my mouth hole.
I kinda want to just push you in the river now.
But when the game isn't trying to throw tons of outdated internet references and memes, it can be decently funny. Pretty much everything Krondor had to say got me.
Big bopsicles!
And lastly, BugSnax's ending. It doesn't come out of nowhere, but it definitely wasn't what I and many players were expecting, and it could rub some people the wrong way. Without spoiling much, I'll just say it tonally changes from a good-hearted preteen game to something a step below scary. I would say it's the equivalent to a Courage the Cowardly Dog episode, and at its conclusion, it had me wondering who this ending was for. Still, I don't want to sound down on the game because I think it's genuinely good, though I don't think it's an easy sell at $40. I would personally recommend picking this up if it ever does go on sale. It can be bought on the Epic Game Store, or for both PS4 and PS5, though I wouldn't recommend the PS4 edition as it does have some performance issues with frame drops and loading screens that lasted a minute and a half at least for me. I Am Dead is a heavily story-based puzzle game that follows a museum curator named Morris Lupton, who has recently died. He comes across his dog, who had also passed away, and is told that the island's volcano will erupt if they do not find another ghost who can become a curator for the island and distract the volcano. Morris Lupton isn't allowed to become the curator himself due to ghost rules.
I wish. But Ghost Code 342B dictates that the custodian must be a ghost who has been dead on this island for at least 1,000 days.
And as such must look for the spirits of other people who have died on the island so that they may become the curator. What follows is a game where the player listens to the memories of people who knew the islanders before, in order to gain clues or find mementos that will eventually draw out the spirit so that you may talk to them. This whole process isn't designed to be difficult. The music and visuals help to provide the main story with a very relaxed vibe. Visuals are colorful, while the locations are what you would expect on an island town. They are quite diverse with their sheer amounts of things to see. Seriously, the main puzzle mechanic in this game is to look at objects and phase into them to get additional information. This means practically everything on screen is interactable, and this gives the game an optional challenge in the form of Grenkins. Grenkins are optional collectibles that appear on every level and take the form of an abstract shape, and the player is tasked with finding them within a room. This can take a while because you have to line up exact angles to unlock the Grenkin, and this can be real finicky. I Am Dead is a relaxing experience, but it all comes together with David Shaughnessy's performance of Morris.
Ah, the bench. Yeah, this is, well, it's my bench. Yeah, the museum paid for it because I was the curator there. Yeah, and they did that to remember me because, oh yes, I am dead.
You can feel the emotion in his voice, whether he's excited or feeling down. I can't really say much else about it without going into spoiler territory, but his performance really steals the show here. I Am Dead is not without some blunders though. If you're going to play this game, treat it like a book, because it does not respect your time. Every time we get a story relevant item, it plays this cutscene. This cutscene never changes except for the item that gets spun around it, which means you're going to be seeing this exact animation about 30 times. When looking through someone's memories, we have to play this minigame where we adjust the slider until a picture perfectly fits the frame. This can make the stories choppy because lining these up is a hassle. And as I said earlier, there are a lot of things to check, and I mean a lot, like looking into a bush, then entering that bush to phase through several more levels. Now imagine if I didn't find anything in here, which will sometimes happen given you will have to check desks with multiple compartments, or bags with several pockets. All these little details and features just take away from what is a good game with good visuals. And I felt myself getting restless quite a bit when playing this game, so once again, I feel this needs to be treated like a movie or a book, something you're going to be a little less involved in, but have to be in order for it to progress. I Am Dead is an enjoyable game, though if you weren't interested in my brief story introduction, this might not be the game for you. This game will cost you $20, so just think of it as picking up a book from Barnes & Noble. Lastly, the game I'm most excited about and probably spent the most time out of all the products on this list is Friday Night Funkin'. A very charming game. Its art style has an early 2000 aesthetics that we really haven't seen for quite a while. It harkens back to the early Flash days, and oh, would you guess it, it is one. It's supported by and released on Newgrounds. It even has an official trailer and was featured in their Christmas artwork. Friday Night Funkin' is a rhythm game that is a mix of DDR and Parappa the Rapper. The note layout is the classic arrow key form, but the player responds directly and copies whoever their opponent is. I found this style of gameplay enjoyable since typically nothing new or insane is just being thrown at the player without warning. The player is always given a chance to prep themselves on what is about to come. Repeat playthroughs of songs will give the player plenty of opportunities to correct themselves, and I found this leads to a smooth learning curve, which is needed because Friday Night Funkin' can have a hard difficulty spike. Look at the difference in songs between week 1 and week 2. Friday Night Funkin' does do a good job of teaching new concepts each week. Week 1 is about the basics. The first 2 songs are slow paced, but Fresh has moments where the player has to input larger amounts of arrows in a small space of time. Dad Battle puts in easy rotations of beats, but requires the player to move their hands much faster. Each week teaches a different lesson, and those lessons have proven to be more difficult than the last. Week 2 is about memorizing patterns, since the keys move incredibly fast, and with the complexity of the patterns, trying to beat the song with just reaction speed is a big ask. Week 3 has less complicated layouts, but requires better reflexes or faster hands. The most recent set of levels have kinda gone off the wall in both difficulty and in song design, since the player is now relying even harder on their reflexes with duet sequences. Friday Night Funkin' is hard to talk about because what you see on screen is what you get. I wouldn't go and say this is the most unique game, but its character designs and attitude along with its genuinely fantastic tracks have kept me hooked from its inception in the Lum Dum Dare game jam. Out of every game on this list, this is by far the most accessible game. It can be found on Newgrounds and itch.io for the low cost of free. And don't worry about Flash going in 2021, because Newgrounds has already implemented an emulator that runs Flash games separately, and the developers of Friday Night Funkin' have routinely released the source and game files for free on itch.io. Links will be in the description. I highly recommend this game. It's a small time investment for what I think is a fantastic product, and one that the developers have been routinely updating pretty much once a month. And with that, we wave farewell to 2020 and look forward to what 2021 has to offer. I'm personally excited for Darkest Dungeon 2 and Back 4 Blood. Leave what your notable games from 2020 were in the comments down below. And lastly, I want to thank you for watching this video. I hope you subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.